Hello.
Charlie.
Yep.
Hey, it's Rustin Rose with Access.com and Metalholic Magazine. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. You guys head out with Iron Maiden to South America next week. That is a fantastic way to kick off the touring cycle for the new record.
Yeah, I mean, it's Iron Maiden.
And you guys have always had a great time on the road with them.
Yeah, they're a great band, and, I could say all the adjectives, But, it's a band that we kind of always looked up to and almost tried to model our own band like them,
So Anthrax turns 35 this year, no secret to that. You've spent 2/3 of your life in this band. Is that at all surreal? I mean, how do you put that in perspective?
When you say it like that, it just makes me tired. But, it's like I don't feel it's even been that long, So, I don't know. I still feel like enthusiastic now as I did back then. So, I don't know. I guess if you really love what you're doing, then it's hard to put any sort of hours or time on it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Well, you enjoy it, then just keep doing it.
Yeah, you guys are absolutely as vital now as the day that you started. With over 3 decades of doing this comes a lot of wisdom as a songwriter and a person, and I think that sort of shows in the diversity on For All Kings.
I mean, it's no secret that, I worked really hard on this record, like making some of the best songs I felt we've ever had, and the other guys did too, We really worked hard on this one.
Well, when you guys put out worship music, you guys didn't know what was going to happen, how the response was going to be, and it was huge. And
right.
And with this one, already everything that I've heard and has been fantastic. And you had such a serious creative outpouring yourself when you were writing this new record. That has to feel good when it's just flowing like that.
That was the best part about it, was that it was flowing. And sometimes it worries me that it won't flow. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you get writer's block and, now what, But I was just in such a creative space that the stuff just kept happening. So I was just letting it go and just coming up with different songs. So it was great.
And then, of course, this is the first album with Jonathan on guitar. How did he impact the record? I mean, did you guys guide him a bit in terms of sound and style, or did you just sort of set him loose?
I think we all knew John was capable of playing some great stuff, and I actually worked really closely with him on this record just to get him in the right direction, and he's on fire. He just plays such great shit. He's awesome.
Now, you guys opened the album with one of the 2 longest tracks on the record. How important is sequencing to you? Do you put a lot of thought into the track order?
Oh, absolutely. The sequencing to me is really important because really wanted the listener to be on this kind of ride and, just put them on the right course. So one song ends, it goes into another song, and just wanted it to tell a bit of a story, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I just think sequencing is really important to the record, because you don't want to put everything fast right up front, you know what I mean? You want to space it all out and create a mood,
Well, and you guys can sort of do that because you have such a huge following, but I talk to a lot of guys, like they front load their albums with everything they think are their strongest songs and then just throw with the weaker ones on the end, and it sort of throws off that balance, and you guys have fantastic balance on this record.
Yeah, that's the wrong thing to do. You don't want to kind of just front load it, because you have to make it interesting for the listener, or else they'll just shut it off after song 5.
Yeah, and that's the hard part in this day of digital downloads and stuff, is everybody's going for this song and for that song, and you and I sort of grew up in that era where we just took in the entire record,
Well, that's the thing that we're missing nowadays, where people are going on iTunes and just buying a track here, a track there. We really want the listener to have the full effect, the whole record, not just a song or two. This record is meant to be listened to as a full piece.
I always notice a lot of times in the studio, a song will take on a life of its own, Was there a track on For All Kings that sort of surprised you with how it ultimately turned out in the end?
There's one song that the demo that I did for it was like around 8 minutes long. It was long. And that song ended up being called Blood Eagle Wings. The original track working title for that song was called Epic because it just had this long, it was long, and it just had this epic feel. And I really pushed hard for that song to be on the record and just work on it. And I'm so happy that it did because it's like one of my favorite tracks on the record.
Yeah, that's actually one of my two favorite tracks. The other one is Monster at the End. And, you know, you and I mentioned this. We came up sort of in that pre-MTV era when we connected songs and albums to events in our life. And I was thinking when I was listening to Monster at the End today, as a matter of fact, how much the lyrics for me seem to fit sort of the state of America at this point. You know, you look at where the country's going, these idiots we have running for the presidency now. I mean, Trump, seriously, you know.
There is a very, very scary vibe going on in our country, and I'm almost afraid to even talk about it because of the division that there is. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if, let's say, a Donald Trump does become president of our country. I don't know what will happen. I don't know how it's going to be perceived globally. It could happen, right?
Absolutely, it could happen, and I'm terrified that the direction we've been going for the last 15, 20 years is we're headed for a civil war, and our government, our system of government as we know it is going to collapse. You
may see an uprising, a very scary uprising in America that, I don't know, man, it's a very scary time. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. Maybe this whole Donald Trump thing is meant to destroy the Republican Party, what it's become. Maybe this is what he's trying, because he was a Democrat, right, and he went over to the Republican Party. Maybe he's sabotaging them without them even knowing it.
Right. Of course, are we better off with either of the options on the other side with where we're at this point? I almost think our founding fathers said when it no longer worked, it was time to scrap it and start over. And we've had the longest running system of government, and, you know, that should we scrap it at this point and start over, you know?
I don't think, I don't know. I have my thoughts in my head about what's going to happen. And it's just a very, very scary time out there, and just things have been heating up. And I always thought that the Republicans never gave Obama a bit of a chance to really do things. And of course, even me just saying that, if people read what I just said, they would come down hard on me for saying that because they hate Obama so much. And I mean, he has done some things that have been good, but other people would look at it as, no, he's the worst. But I don't think anyone was as worse as the way George Bush fucked this country over.
Well, I used to say that no matter who was president after Bush, the next presidency was going to be in mop-up mode, trying to clean up the mess.
Right. And these Republicans don't even acknowledge that he fucked this country up so much. He put us in a war that we didn't have to be in. And I truly think that ISIS and all that is because of that whole situation.
Yeah, I don't disagree. But as you said, it's a really scary time where we're at right now and where we're headed. And, you know, I can hear kids in the background, and I can tell you I'm terrified for my own children, for my grandchildren, what it's going to look like for them.
Yeah, they're going to have to deal with this mess, too. You know, when we're all gone and our grandchildren or whatever are here to deal with this mess, too. And I don't know, man. It's just, I don't know how it can be saved because it's so divided.
Right. Yeah.
Scary. But we're still making music, so.
Yeah, and music is what we're here talking about anyway. That's the important thing. Now, when you guys were in the studio working on this record, I mean, you guys have been around, as we said, for so long. Did you guys try anything new or different in the studio this time that maybe you haven't done before, something you've always wanted to try? Or
Yeah, we actually did something different this time that we never did before. We did the record in sections. We did not just go into the studio and just stay there until it was finished. We did half in December, and then we did the other half in March. And the reason for doing that was we really wanted to keep it exciting. you know what I mean? So it's easier to track 8 songs than it is to track, 17, 18 songs. So that's the way we approached it this time. And it really worked out well because we were excited to work on the 8. And once those were finished, we put them away and then let's go do, the other 10 that we had. And that's the way it worked out.
Absolutely. And as you said, you wrote a ton of songs for this record and you recorded, like you said, 18, 20 songs, something like that, I think. Are we potentially looking at another Anthems cover EP with an extra track or two?
Yeah, I would love to do another one of those because I had such a great time doing the first one. It's such a great experience to actually do cover songs of these bands that you grew up with and you love. I actually always learned something new about myself and also about my playing every time I do something like that. So it's a win-win all around.
Right. You sort of I remember reading something about how much, Anthems itself, the Rush cover that you did really sort of brought out for you. So, and we talked about Maiden at the beginning of this and how inspirational they have sort of been in sort of terms of Anthrax. You guys being the big Maiden fans that you are, is there a Maiden track that you'd ever consider trying to cover?
Oh, actually, we did record a Maiden track. I don't know if it'll ever see the light of day, but it's from the Peace of Mind record. It's called Revelation, and I hope one day we could finish it to put it out. Maybe that'll be on the next Anthems record.
That would be fantastic. Do you have one that you've got your heart set on maybe doing at some point because you guys each sort of throw ideas out there, right, of what you'd like to do?
Well, we did record some B-sides. We just haven't finished them yet.
Right.
So we got to get around to doing that.
Gotcha. Now, you've essentially called Boston's debut a perfect album, and I agree with that. What are some other albums that, because you're a huge music fan like I am, what are some of the other albums in your mind that sort of fall into that category that are pretty much flawless from beginning to end?
Van Halen 1 is flawless from start to finish. I would have to say Led Zeppelin. I think every Led Zeppelin record is flawless, so that would be a hard one for me. But I think Zeppelin 4 for me is flawless. It's just fucking awesome, That first Sex Pistols record is from start to finish, always puts me in a great mood. Yeah, some of those records are just flawless,
I was going to ask that too. Is there sort of like a go-to song or album that no matter what mood you're in, is it that Sex Pistols album, or is there another one that just always, without fail, gets you pumped up and ready to go, brings you out of whatever mood you were in?
Oh yeah, that's one of them for sure. I love listening to Judas Priest, British Steel. That's one that gets me, hyped and just amped and going. Van Halen usually will do that too, and then. Just a handful of records, you just put them on and it's like, yes,
Absolutely. Okay, so a couple more quick ones before we get out of here. I love always hearing about the history, and I'm from the New York area, but I didn't get the good fortune of growing up in like sort of the New York City music scene. But what are some of your memories from that New York music scene growing up from your youth? Because, the Ramones and Kiss and Dust and all these great bands that came out of there and just that feel of it all.
Growing up in New York, it was always like, there was always something going on. You could go down the city any night of the week and see somebody, you know what I mean? My favorite venue when I was growing up would be going down to the Palladium on 14th Street. That's where I saw shows like Iron Maiden opened up for Judas Priest there. And it was Paul Di'Anno singing. It was one of those great shows that you never would get to see this again. I saw the last Motorhead show there. I saw Kiss there, UFO. I saw so many acts there that it was just an amazing place for music,
There's just something about the New York vibe, that whole East Coast vibe, that is different in music than it is, say, on the West Coast.
Yep.
The lead guitar spot has always been sort of the most fluid position in Anthrax, and you're a pretty damn good guitar player in your own right. Have you ever at any point in this whole thing considered stepping out from behind the kit to move out front and play?
No, I don't really enjoy playing guitar on stage. That's the truth. It's something that I'm just not comfortable with. I enjoy playing, of course, in the studio, or just dressing room, I'll just play all day, all night. But when it comes to going on stage, I think I feel more secure behind the kit. I guess maybe it's being surrounded by something that makes me feel more secure. But just playing guitar in front of people on stage makes me feel almost somewhat naked. So I don't know. I'll choose the other.
Awesome, Charlie. Okay, so last question on the way out the door here. I don't know if you've heard about this or not. There's a band over in Iran called Confess, a heavy metal band, and they've been arrested by the Iranian police. They've been thrown in prison. They've been tortured. They're actually facing potentially being executed for playing and promoting heavy metal. We started talking about it on our radio station, and it got picked up. OTEP's been pushing, for them. Alyssa White Glues from Arch Enemy's been pushing to help free them. Have you heard about this at all, or what are your thoughts on countries that would do that, execute people just for listening to and promoting heavy metal?
Yeah, I heard something about this, but I haven't heard most of it about what is going on. But as you just told me, I find that to be absolutely insane that if someone is expressing themselves musically, that they would be put to death from it. I can't believe that they would allow this to happen, but that's pretty sad. Wow. Yeah, that kind of really makes me sad. Scary. I hope it doesn't happen.
Absolutely. It's scary in this day and age to think that anybody could die just for trying to make their art.
Exactly. But we've had that before.
True. So very true. All right. Congratulations to Anthrax, to Charlie Benante, the new album For All Kings out this week. Fantastic record. Charlie, thank you so much for taking some time to talk with us.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. We'll see you on tour, man.